Hey, everybody. Welcome to 217 weeks of doing this. Yes, we are counting. Oh my goodness. And Adam is he just sent me an email or text like, hey, he has been running a little bit late, so he's going to be joining us a little bit late. And we also are supposed to have a guest on here, and we'll see if they're able to show up or not. And if not, we're going to wing it anyway, because we still have plenty of stuff to talk about. So while we're doing that, Jack, this was kind of his idea. No, actually, was this your idea or was this Adam's? But there was a Chat GPT in following up from last week on using Chat GPT and like what's up with that. But I think was that you that did the Chat GPT on this one, or was that Adam?
I did.
Yeah,
And it
you did.
was
All
because
right,
I was
cool.
like, okay, and I just of interest, and then it came up. I wasn't surprised. I mean, the first thing that came up was, and by the way, while I'm talking, it sounds like Shannon got the not the participants link, but not the moderator link.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
she's on, but and she's hearing us, but we
All
need
right,
to get
so
her
what I'm
the
gonna
appropriate
do,
link. Um, and
oh
so, but
man.
yeah, so the first thing that came up was the presidential election, and all the politics and everything else that's going on with that and all the pundits, and then the second was the economy, which we can chat about a little bit, but it sounds like depending on which side of it you're on, is there going to be an interest rate reduction or not? It sounds like that the Fed is thinking about it, but is not going to do it anytime soon because they're not ready to do it. But then there is, okay, do we end up in a recession, or will inflation increase? And so it's the back and forth kind of thing going on. And then so third was what is on people's minds, business owners' minds, is about marketing, business development, and just all the options that are out there, and how to what is the proper way to navigate and all those things. So I was like, okay, who do we know? And then I was like, oh, I know someone who has been doing this for a long period of time. And actually, she and not surprising, when I went looking for Shannon, saw her, I think, and she's on now, but her handle on LinkedIn is Charlotte Marketing Professional. I mean, usually you don't see that as the handle, the address, right? It's usually first initial last name or something along those lines, some long thing, or maybe just first name last name. But I mean, just having said that, I mean, I'm basically sharing, Shannon, your street cred with everybody about that. So um so she's on. I don't know if you want me to continue with, or
Yeah,
how do you want
yeah.
to do
So
this?
I just sent an SOS to the person that handles the links, and evidently we sent the wrong link. So sorry, Shannon.
Yep.
So unfortunately, we may not be able to see your face unless you get this panelist link. But nonetheless, I've unmuted you so you
All
can
right.
talk. So at least we got that.
There you go.
So tell us
Yeah,
a
go
little
ahead.
bit about. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying for you to go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your background, what you guys do, how what your focus is, and then let's get into some of the trends and stuff, some of the stuff that you're seeing that's effective and things that have gone by the wayside or are starting to decline in the marketing world as far as effectiveness.
Sure. So my background has been predominantly in the MSP space, which is a managed service provider, meaning my clients look to us to outsource a lot of their IT needs. Sometimes it's they can't build a team, they don't have enough resources to be able to take care of everything the company needs from an IT perspective. That in my professional career, that's what I've been working with the most lately, I'd say over the last 15 years. And in the last couple of years, I've moved actually into the cybersecurity space. So marketing for a cybersecurity company, and that has brought on very interesting buyers' needs. They are very paranoid. So marketing to them is extremely difficult. That's been what I've focused on here in the last like 10, 15 years. Before that, I worked with small businesses. I had a little agency here in Charlotte, and it really brought digital marketing to the hands of small business owners, and kind of consulting with them on how to set up email, their websites, how to market to the consumers, how to use what they have to do more with, and kind of putting the control in their hands so that they were able to take advantage of tactics that were cheap or free, social media being a huge part of that. And since, so talk about a tactic that has grown and grown and grown is social media. And how do you tackle that? How do you use that? How do you maintain a genuine relationship with folks that you don't even know? That's a trend that has really seen some highs and lows.
Yeah. So speaking of that, what are you seeing that doesn't work?
Yeah. So I've gone from, in my career, where we sent out actual tangible mailings through the mail, right?
Yeah.
And and then comes the email marketing side of it, where that everything shifted to email. So you were saving a ton of money on shipping and printing, etc. Now we're seeing there's so much spam. I mean, I think we're all seeing it in personal and business side, and how ineffective email has become. It can be effective if it's done right, but if it's done poorly, it's spam and it's ignored. And I'm almost going back to the drawing board. Especially, I laugh because cybersecurity buyers, again, paranoid. They don't click on anything they don't know where it's coming from or who it is. So I'm almost teetering back on going back to snail mail and sending out some marketing pieces back through the mail. And who would have thought, 10, 15 years later, we'd be kind of boomeranging back to that tactic. But there's something to be said of trends kind of coming back. Bell bottoms came and went, mom jeans came and went, and now we're seeing it with the email. Social media too. A lot of people just, again, I always say, if you're going to do it, be different. And social media is kind of trending in the same way. It's a lot of noise out there. Even on LinkedIn, people were predominantly using it for very professional reasons. And now we're starting to see pictures of families and stories about their children going off to college, and a lot of trying to tie it back to the business world. So we're seeing some personal stuff creep in, and I think it's just everybody's on board and has been using social media for so long now that it's a mainstay, but it's noisy. It's very noisy. So that's something else that is, I imagine, if you've been active in social media, you're seeing the changes. The engagement rates go down. The growth of the channel isn't as high as it used to be. So those are some of the trends that I've noticed lately, that we're having to really take a step back and reassess our strategy and see, kind of shake things up a little bit. Again, trying to differentiate yourself always. That's the bottom line in marketing, is finding out what that differentiator is and writing that, and what does that mean to the market, right? So a lot of different strategies having to take place. It's not set it and forget it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, Shannon. And you said, if nothing else resonates with anybody in this entire hour, if you're going to do it, be different, and be authentic, but be different. And you got to have both of those things, because if you're different for different sake, but it's not authentic, people can't resonate with that.
Absolutely.
But to follow the herd and do what everybody else is doing is not going to serve you well, because it's just it's so noisy. And I'm gonna take this back to even what Adam and Jack and I started doing, and it's not to, blow our own horn, but if you go back to 2020 in March, every Tom, Dick, and Harry was doing the same talking points. They had a webinar, and they're using GoToMeeting or whatever, Zoom, and it's they're all kind of dressed up and it's kind of stiff, and they're using the same pablum talking points that didn't make sense, but they were sanitized by the government and they still didn't make sense. And we're like, kind of screw that, because it didn't make sense to us. And Jack said, hey, you guys are kind of putting yourself out there, and you might want to have an attorney on here. And we're thinking, insurance policy, that's a good idea. So plus we like Jack, but we just decided, you know what, we're going to just be authentic. We're business owners too. We got to speak English, because
Yes.
the rest of this stuff was gobbledygook. And then, within less than 6 weeks, everybody else is gone. And we're still doing it because we like it, first of all, and we want to deliver value in who we are. Like, occasionally if we get dressed up, it's because we have a collar, and Jack usually has a collar, but he's a lawyer.
He
I have
wakes
to
up
dress the
every morning
part.
with a collar on. I saw him at the pool once, collar on.
Yeah, and with boat shoes, I'm sure. Very preppy boat shoes.
So Shannon, I was thinking as you were saying, your experience in cyberspace and data breaches, and the same thing that attracts someone to click that link is maybe something that would attract someone to click a legitimate link, right? And so what are you seeing, so the catch, the hook
Yeah.
is probably the same or very similar. So let's say that we want to use the hook in a good way, but leveraging off of what you've seen has been done in a bad way, but is a good thing, meaning that's what got them to click. So I guess what I'm saying is, what are you seeing is kind of the best thing? Is it, and last week we were talking about, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, had one of my colleagues on about talking about the attention, ChatGPT, talking about the attention span of the current the youngsters versus our ages, and it's getting down to seconds, less than a minute, and and so those kind of things. So what is it that attracts people to and captures their attention from a visual standpoint that causes them to engage with whatever is in front of them?
Right. I think when you can when you know what their needs are and you can talk to that instead of what you as a company provide in terms of, here's our product and this is all about our product, or here's the service that we offer and this is why it's better than XYZ. They don't care that, okay, you've got to I know that these providers are out there, and as a consumer or as a buyer, I know that these guys are out there, but what you're saying is all about you. I'm the buyer. I need you to talk to my pain points. I need you to make me feel like you understand what I'm dealing with. And oh, by the way, you have the answer for me and the solution. And so I think whenever you have to put yourself in their position, understand their pain points and speak to those. That will get their attention every time, because they feel like you know them. They feel like you understand them and you care about them. Cybersecurity is very much a personal relationship business. You would think it would be all about the protection part of it, right? But and almost like a technology driven, industry, and it's not. There's a lot of technology, but there's more importantly, it's that personal touch, that human trust that they have to put into their providers, so they know that they've always got their back. And I think if you're just consistently meeting them where they are and understanding their problems, they are going to automatically trust you more. And they're going to be much more willing to click and see what you have to say, especially if you're able to put some thought leadership out there, which is always important. They're going to listen because they trust you, because you understand them. So you've got to understand your customer and their pain points and speak to that.
And so now that we have engaged you as a business therapist in this session, I was also thinking about, and the reason I thought about this is because when Gary and his crew put together the hook for today, as you saw, it talked about Ferris Bueller's Day Off, right? And so, interestingly, people that I know view those things on a weekly basis, colleagues and others who usually don't hit the like button, I had a lot of likes about that. And I feel like it's because of what it was about the Ferris Bueller thing, and people that are our generation and were there when it came out in the movie theaters. And so so I guess my question is there a value to being empathetic on a personal level, or is that getting too deep into the personal relationship? And do you see that your potential customers, clients, really just want you to empathize with their problem and not necessarily with them, and create a commonality? Does that make sense? That was a loaded question.
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure. I think if you're doing it genuinely, and it depends on what you're talking about, right? Like if we're talking about something really serious, the personality probably doesn't necessarily need to be there, or it could be there on a very basic kind of low level. But when you're trying to get somebody's attention to do something like join a webinar, or just starting to create a relationship, I think the personality, if you have one, should shine, because that's also a differentiator, right? When I'm looking at vendors and I need to decide between two platforms that are virtually the same, I'm not looking at the budget. Well, I am, but I make the decision based off of who I jived with better, who got me, who understands my problems before I'm even talking about them, and who I could sit, for an hour every week with and learn from them about the platform. So I value your personality, and bringing it. Something like Ferris Bueller is a great example of being able to touch on something that we all grew up going through. That was, it's nostalgic, it's funny, it shows that this isn't going to be a boring webinar. So those all kind of go into play and really set up what the payoff is, which is this webinar where, you guys are smiling and laughing, and this is laid back, conversational, yet still educational. So I think it's when you have that initial conversation or post or whatever it is, and it's genuine and it tees up the payoff in the right way, then you're hitting the ball out of the park. If this was really serious and, like if we all had ties on and nobody smiled and it was very boring, then what you set up didn't pay off, right? And so and it doesn't match. And as a user, I'd be like, what the hell did I get pulled into?
Yeah.
And it would put a nasty taste in my mouth, right? I would ignore this from now on if I saw it on LinkedIn.
And,
So
and I want to thank you for mentioning the word educational. So now we don't have to pay a royalty to the owners of the copyright of that movie, because that's an exception to having to pay royalties. But so thank you for that.
Lawyer.
So Gary, go ahead.
Lawyered.
Thank you, Jack. And thank you, Shannon. So Shannon, since you've been in the marketing world for a while, you and I both seen a lot of things because we didn't have digital. At least I didn't back when I was doing the advertising world, and even integrated marketing before it was even called an integrated marketing, but direct mail, you mentioned some of that. let's talk about what you guys are like, maybe what you were doing 20 years ago. And you even mentioned direct mail pieces, which is interesting because I still believe in some of that. It's expensive, you know, that's the
Yeah.
issue versus like what you guys are doing now. Talk about some of that transformation and what is actually working for you.
Yeah. So when I started out of college, Clemson University, go Tigers. I will
Go
always,
Tigers.
by the way, I grew up in Manhattan, Kansas. So I thought that I saw,
No way.
yes, sir, I did. Absolutely. One block from campus.
Sister. No wonder I like you.
I know, right? Go Cats. So, wait, what was the question? Just kidding. So, and I graduated from Clemson. My first job was at an ad agency, and we still placed ads in newspapers.
Yeah.
And we did have fax machines. So, we always laughed because the senior leaders always talked about how we were like, how did you do this job before fax machines? Good night. Did I just age myself or what, you know? So, whatever. But so when the internet took over, that big World Wide Web, um, my job was to move my clients' dollars to online. Because it was faster, it was on 24/7, it was cheaper, you could make changes. You know, there was just so many benefits to moving everything to the digital World Wide Web. Which is also why we saw newspapers and magazines shrinking because the dollars were being pulled and put online. So that's RIP newspapers. But so then so then we started just taking advantage of websites and places, online magazine type places where you could place your ads, browsers. Remember Yahoo was just
Yeah.
with ads and such long time ago. And then again, email and then social media. I mean, everything really has gone so digital that I I moved my daughters into college this year, and neither of them wanted a printer. And I just thought, what world do we live? I mean, we are like such a paperless society any longer. And that really eye-opening that it's continuing, right? But as far as marketing trends and tactics and such, I mean, they really aren't changing as far as medium. But and it's been a long time since we placed anything in, in a tangible type place like a newspaper or anything. So I don't know. I feel like those are the big changes. Now I would say because everybody's online and such, we can track you and we know what you're doing and where you're going and what you're searching. So intent data has really become not only popular, but a really good way to be able to streamline your message to your audience because you already know what they've been searching for. So you can really dive quickly into that need and talk to them specifically. Whereas before, if we didn't know that, we just had like your name and contact information, job title, we would just kind of a little bit spray and pray, like these are all the services that we offer. Whereas if I can tell that you are looking for specifically managed detection and response, then guess what my outreach to you is going to be about? It's going to be specifically about that. So there's a lot of data out there based off of what you're doing online that marketers can have access to and see and utilize for put it in our tool belt and weaponize it against you. So, so be careful.
Shannon, since most of our audience on here, they're entrepreneurs, they're owners, they're executives in leadership teams of privately held businesses. And they're great at manufacturing their whatever they do or their service and providing their services, etc. But they may not even have marketing departments, or if they do, it may be a small little department. Where do they begin? Like, okay, we got all this data, we got all these things available, but like,
Yeah.
where do you go without spending a fortune trying to figure out and navigate the maze of like, what should I do? Let's say you're a B2B marketer like you are, and you've talked about, hey, we can see if you're where you are on our website or what you're searching for. Is there a way to kind of simplify and demystify some of this, or even just going to certain resources where they can manage that for you?
hmm So I would start if I were kind of taking on the marketing, I would start with what is my ICP? And that's my ideal client profile. What is the perfect buyer of my services or products look like? And really understand the size of the company you're talking to, from both revenue and employee count. What are some characteristics about them that make them unique so that you can identify other companies that fall into that same category, and really understanding what that perfect customer looks like. And then that's your focus. So you can cut out a lot of the noise by just focusing on that group of people, whatever those characteristics are. Then you want to make sure that, if you can talk to some of those clients you already have and just understand, how did they find out about you? What other methods did they use when they were looking for the whatever you're providing, and understanding from their aspect or perspective how they came to find you. And then you can really take that and infer some other things, and try and be where they were, and hitting on those points that really turn them into customers. So talk to your customers and understand what it is about you or your company that made them feel comfortable to want to work with you. As far as, there's email marketing, I know I kind of crapped on it a little bit, sorry, but it's still important, especially when you're a smaller company. That's your best way to share on a one to many base level, highlights, new products, company wins, just keeping in front of them. And you're not always going to get something right off the bat. You're not going to have a lot of leads come in because you're emailing, you send an email. It's consistency over time. Whatever you do, you've got to be consistent and stay at it, and it will take off if you're doing it in the right way. But don't lose sight, and don't cut it out because it's not, benefiting you right away. Give it time and let it go. Same with social media.
Yeah.
If you're genuine about it, you post, once a day on LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever your market is, again, once every couple of days. Just stay consistent and stay genuine. There's no good, I would say, like, if you're starting out and you're so small that it's really you, then you do it, because you're going to be the most genuine versus hiring somebody else or bringing somebody else in. And it just becomes, something you're just going to set up a couple minutes a day, to make sure that you're doing whatever needs to be done on that basis. But I think ultimately how you can help yourself out is look at the calendar over the next month and plan out what you're going to do and what you're going to talk about and how you're going to send that message, and then stick to it. But the worst thing you can do is not have that strategy in place and just wing it. You're going to be all over the place. You're going to have to define your goals ahead of time, set up that calendar, look at how you're going to achieve those goals, set up and follow the strategy.
Shannon, I know you got to bail because you've got other commitments, but the fact that you showed up for this, and even though we can't see you, we're going to have to get together, Wildcat Lady, because, those ties to Manhattan, Kansas, those run deep. So anyway, thank you for taking time. We'll continue on, and next time we'll have you back on, and we'll actually have the right link to you so we can actually see you when you're talking.
Yeah, I look forward to it, you guys, anytime. And if you want to reach out, anybody on here would like to contact me with questions specifically, LinkedIn, Charlotte Marketing Professional. I tried to take advantage of SEO a long time ago, search engine optimization.
Yeah.
So definitely reach out. I'm happy to help. I love talking marketing. I love helping people. And I'm happy to come back at any time.
Thank you
Thank you,
so much,
Shannon.
Shannon.
Absolutely. All right, I'm gonna go. Bye, guys.
All right. See
Bye.
ya.
Take care.
So I know Adam has some thoughts because Adam has been doing a lot of deep dive in some of this, and it's been fun to watch. Just because what used to work back then years ago is different, and things continue to shape and evolve. But before we do that, there was a Matt had a chat in here that I thought was pretty funny, and worth mentioning. So when Jimmy Buffett, rest in peace, launched his Parrot Head albums, his marketing genius took a signed coconut to Virgin Records saying, "Buy my next album, Jimmy." The post office charged $7 per address. Each store owner could then order more to help him move albums, and that reinforced his brand and avoided traditional distribution channels and costs. That is a great example. That's a great example because that kind of out of the norm thinking, and I'll give you another example like that. So anybody remember the famous ad agency named Chiat Day out of Los Angeles? Maybe not if you're not an advertising person, but remember the ads 1984, probably the most famous ad ever done. That was Chiat Day for Apple, and Nike, same way. Well, here's what's interesting. The guy, his name was Lee Clow, and he was a surfboarder dude with really long hair. He wanted to get hired by Chiat Day. And Chiat and Jay Chiat, I think, who owned it at the time, didn't know this guy from Adam. And I think Lee Clow was from like Venice Beach, which would make sense because super long hair and whatever. And so he sent a direct mail piece every week to Jay Chiat for over a year. And I have a good friend that actually knew him and knew this whole story. That's how I found out about it. And his postcard would say, and had a picture of him, "Hire the Harry." That was it. Hire the Harry, this long-haired surfer dude, and one of the most creative directors we've ever known. But he was just relentless. But he was doing something different. So that coconut thing is, I think, a really brilliant strategy. Go where everybody else isn't. And one more quick example. My son has this shoe company where the traditional Nike and Reebok, which, we know their stories, we know Reebok founder pretty well, they ran into the same issues where they were growing really fast, but they were almost going out of business every time that they were growing so fast because their cash flow was just getting eaten up. They had no cash flow, and it about killed them. Well, these two young guys, my son and his partner, and had a third partner at one point, they went direct. They wanted to do distribution. So they actually started with a Kickstarter. They took no outside money. And then they got a grant from the state of Nebraska where his two partners were originally. That's how they funded this thing. And they have killed it. But they figured out, and it's all direct. So they went and completely bypassed the distribution channels. It's just very interesting to me. And I think a lot of our younger folks kind of intuitively get this because they've had to be scrappy. But what Shannon talked about, I thought was really, really good. So Adam, I know you've got some thoughts because you've really been tinkering around in this world. So hit us with some of your thoughts on, measuring dollars when it seems, back to marketing effectiveness.
Yeah. So I think what we see with a lot of our clients is that, you know, hey, I'm not on budget. I'm not making what I want to make. I need to start cutting the budget, even though I know I need more sales, so what am I going to do? I'm going to cut marketing because that's ineffective anyway. And, I'll probably cut the salesman's pay, make him go 100% commission, because that'll motivate him, you know, they sort of wonder why the doom spiral, just occurred when in reality, they should be doing the opposite. So I think what I've found is that when I've worked with clients, I'm like, hey, how do you measure marketing effectiveness? Because at the end of the day, it's a scorecard is I got a sale, and the classic marketing line is you never know what led to the sale, right? Which there's an element of truth in. And at the same time, if you kind of look at everything that we just discussed, right? Like there's going to be no bright, like we're doing a lot of we're doing things like this webinar, and at the same time we're doing, LinkedIn posts, and we're doing, awareness campaigns, writing ebooks, and still meeting with people, the good old fashioned way. It's hard to say exactly what was the magic thing, right? So what we advocate to people that are interested in this topic, because at the end of the day, you can turn it into a piece of science, at some level. And Jack will appreciate this, being with Shoemaker, because I'm sure he's been part of these discussions. This would never happen at Shoemaker. It'd be other professional firms with other partners where this would occur. You kind of have, so at the very base level, you can say marketing spend and sales, and those have a ratio, period. And
Yeah.
if you look at some rules of thumb, somewhere between 25 to 50% of the value of a new customer in year one is probably what you ought to spend marketing to those customers. Kind of 5% or so, maybe 2% is what you ought to spend on retaining existing customers. Like you can start to come up with, okay, well that should be my budget. In other words, like if I'm going to grow by, $1 million, but I only plan to spend 10 grand on marketing, it's like you kind of got to say, I wonder how I'm going to do that, so that gives you just some rules of thumb, to start following. And if you kind of go back in time, you can start to come up with like, well, what were our new sales to new customers? What were our new sales to existing customers, which are expansion, versus what was just like keep the lights on, type maintenance stuff. So rule number one is start with what's the total ratio of sales to marketing spend, and and just look at that over time. Like, is that ratio held up? Like if it was, $1 marketing spend equals, $100 in sales, and that's been a constant. Okay, got it. Then it's probably a safe bet if I spend $2, I might get to $200. If you just start thinking about the constant levels. So then you break that down to the next level and say, well, let me stratify like what's targeted at acquiring new customers, what's targeted at expansion opportunities, and what's targeted at just keeping the lights on with the base that we got, right? And you can start to look at those ratios, to where, yeah, that's right. 20 cents on the dollar for new customers, 15 cents on the dollar for expansion opportunities with existing customers, 5 cents, whatever on the dollar for just keeping Jack happy by taking him out to lunch every 6 months, right? So now I have these ratios, and I feel like, if you just get there, that's actually a pretty good start, right? Because when you're experimenting with your marketing effectiveness, if those constants start to change, like they get better, meaning like wow, I'm spending the same amount of money and generating more sales. It's like, I'm onto something, Clark. You know, if on the other hand, it goes down, Starbucks gift card from Jack, well, clearly the Jelly of the Month Club was not the good strategy. You know, you need to try something, you need to try something different. So I'd start there. Then, and this is the one Jack's never, you know, heard before, right? You have the exact opposite of the spectrum. The jackasses that are like, okay, Jack, you've been going to that chamber event for a month now. Where's
Yeah.
the new business? You know, you sponsored that event last month. Where's the new business? That's not like, that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. There's no possibility that that you're going to be able to say with any degree of certainty and precision, you know, there's a 1-to-1 correlation between that thing I did and became a new customer. Like, you know, you can, but that being said, you can start to get to some degrees of association. So the second measurement point that I would advocate based on Jack's, you know, this is more the old school marketing where like I'm going to events, I'm getting out there, I'm doing sponsorship, stuff like that. You know, you can measure, well, how many appointments did that generate? Meaning like, if Jack says, hey, guys, you know, we're going to sponsor the Charlotte Business Journal's, you know, Fast 50, you know, thing, because you know what, that's a good target rich environment, you know, for the folks at Shoemaker, right? I mean, it's an expensive event, right? And then nobody from frickin' Shoemaker goes. All right, not effective. You know, if we spend that money and it's like, crap, man, you know, kid's got a soccer game, you know, flunky down the hall who's got no experience in practice development, you know, you go fill the table because we bought a table. Congratulations. You know, have a fun night out with your fiance. Probably not going to be effective either. So you got to be like, look, dude, we got a table, you're going, and I'm expecting your ass to come back with 3 names, you know, that generated at least 1 appointment. You know, that's the way that you can kind of get to measuring the effect. And it takes like that's actually extremely simple, but it's not easy because it requires that you be disciplined, you know, about saying an event is coming up, who is going, what's our plan, who's going to be there, who do we want to meet, report back, did we at least meet them at the event, you know, what's the follow-up, like that. It requires like that level of rigor. But I'll tell you what, if you apply that level of rigor, guess what, it works every time. You know, every single time you apply that level of rigor, it works every time. And the same sort of concept applies on all the stuff we just heard about. So, for example, and you know, hopefully Jamie, Liz, and Rachel never listen to this. This is not a criticism. It's just, you know, a suggestion for enhancements for possible future opportunities with the VGW marketing campaign. If I launch an email campaign and a social media campaign, like I'm doing the deal, like I'm doing exactly what she said. I'm raising awareness, you know. So Jack sends out his scholarly article through his CRM system about, you know, changes in franchise law that are going to impact you that you need to be aware of, you know, emergency, right? And he's got an open rate of 38%. And like of that 38% that's actually opening up the email, you know, 15% actually read the damn thing. Like you can tell by the time, right? They actually read the thing. If Jack does nothing with that information, maybe it'll turn into something, maybe it won't. You know, like it probably will have kind of a halo effect, right? Like you're pounding them on stuff. Versus Jack, here are the 15 people who actually read your shit. You know, we're now going to enroll them in campaign number 2. And if there's like 3 reads of your email, I already booked the appointment for you to call them. You know, appointment set up. You do, again, extremely simple, but requires rigor, discipline. You know, that's how I've seen that this stuff actually works and operates. And from what I described, that everything that I just described, very measurable, very predictable, very easy to move the dials on an A/B test to kind of see what works and what doesn't work. So I think what I found, you know, and kind of put a bullet in this is that, you know, the people that bitch about, you know, effectiveness of marketing, you know, blah, blah, what are we spending the money on? What they actually just suck at the execution and the follow-up. Like at the end of the day, you know, they went to the trade show and really what it was called was escape my wife and kids and have a boondoggle in Vegas. You're welcome for your paid vacation, but don't tell me that that was in an effective trade show. You don't freaking even know because, you know, you were physically on the trade show floor, hungover, hoping that nobody talked to you. Right. Jack's laughing. He's like, no, I've never heard that happening. You know, how dare you, sir?
No, not at all. Those things don't happen, do they? For real?
Yeah.
I'll add to
Funny
that,
because it's true.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. You know, and
Guilty
it's
as
not that,
charged.
right, right. I mean, and I don't, and we're not proposing, at least I don't think, that you know you need to have a sophisticated CRM system. What we're saying is that go into situations with a plan. Don't just, and I was guilty of this when I was younger. I'm like, okay, I have to go to every coffee meeting. I need to meet with every potential referral source, every potential client. I was very FOMO, and you know, I just like, oh gosh, what if I don't go? What if I don't go? And but then you become a little more strategic, and it makes life a little bit easier and let maybe less fights at home as to when, you know, when you're going out to another meeting and you know what's the return on investment for you in relation to your family relationship kind of thing, but focusing on the business return on investment. So for example, years ago it'd be we just turn in receipts and there'd be a very trusting relationship with our accounting folks to get reimbursements. Now if you look at our form for sponsorships, for memberships, it is okay, who are your potential targets that you want to meet as far as prospects go, who is going with you, which partners are on your team that you're going to utilize either for the actual meeting or afterwards, you know, who is part of your wolf pack, your pack team. And so thinking about those things, when I go to meetings, I look at the attendee list to see who am I going to purposefully accidentally run into, you know, in the breaks in between different meetings and things like that. And then the people around me that when they know that we're out, you know, business development or client development or client appreciation, they know that, okay, at any moment I might excuse myself to go talk to somebody. And it's not that I'm being rude or anything like that. Or when someone, there's people in particular that know that if I'm talking, like if I were talking to the two of you, and this person were to come up and grab me and not say anything, but pull me out of our conversation and go, you guys would know, okay, this is something that is, you know, maybe a business development lead. And then eventually I would bring that person back to the group and you guys will get to meet them. So different strategies, but know those things before you go into these meetings and not just say, well, hopefully something comes of it, because something might, but you have a better, higher chance of conversion and your return on investment if you do a little bit of planning. You don't have to be, you know, okay, like I said, CRM, and then have something that says, okay, it's been 2 weeks since you've talked to this person. You need to talk to this person. Some people need that and some people benefit from that. Some people get stressed out about that. So it's whatever is beneficial to you, but at the minimum, have a plan for the before, the during, and the after.
Yeah, and I kind of like that because, you know, we've got some finance types that are listening now or listen to this, and it's like, you know, you can add a ton of value to the organization by kind of figuring this out, you know, like helping the team figure out what is the right set of things to measure effectiveness. Because, you know, it's like, you know, as as an owner, or just as a, someone that's responsible for the line item, like, your emotions can be like, I'm fearful of all this that I'm spending. Am I going to get a return on it? That's one of the spectrum. At the same time, you gotta call it what it is, in the sense of like, me sponsoring the scramble is a social event, like stop calling it marketing. It's not. That's me hanging out with my buddies, having some beers and having a good time on the course. Like, I can't, like, in other words, like, you can't call it anything else than that. So I feel like what the finance people can help with, because you say, if I said to Gary, give me what I should be measuring. I love Gary. Gary's going to look back at me and say, okay, like, A, F yourself in my wither zone, B, I don't even know what language you're speaking, but, we do. So, like, it really should behoove us as finance professionals to kind of take the lead in terms of saying, okay, well, let's get to something that actually is measurable without it becoming a science project, that at least can give us some comfort that we're pulling the right levers and getting some kind of return. No different than I would evaluate any other expense line item.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's a ton of stuff. I almost think we need to do another week on this. I also just sent a note to a buddy of mine. I think he's in Japan right now, but he is the authority on SEO, search engine optimization, and he's been able to help a lot of people remove or reduce dramatically their advertising spend on online advertising, just by improving their search engine optimization for their website. But I just put in the chat a link to a Forbes article that came out at the beginning of the year, which I thought was really insightful and good about marketing trends for 2024. So check that out. But I also want to acknowledge Joseph had something here, which is really good. He said, hey, YouTube or video is the new platform of marketing, and the reality, the ability to be found in search and search rank for specific search term. I've never really had any success in email marketing, and we all have way too many emails. We heard yesterday the average person is getting 120 email messages a day, and that's light for me. So, like, what do you do with all that? And a lot of that is this, stuff from people that we know or whatever, but it's just like direct messaging, which is just too much. But he says his his business is very similar to the MSP that Shannon was talking about. And, so relationships, personal interactions, and word of mouth are definitely the best form. No, SEO is not dead. It is not dead. It's probably going to change with AI, but it is not dead. We've seen dramatic improvements, but it's not a single bullet strategy. There's no single bullet strategy, and depending on what your business is, it matters. But the benefits or the basics are still this: know who you are, know your target audience, and get really serious about what's the experience, because a lot of times we fail to remember, treat people the way you want to be treated. You're already busy, you got information overload. What is going to break through to you? Think about that in reverse, because a lot of times for marketers, we just completely put the blinders on and think, oh no, this will be great, but we are not thinking about them. We're thinking about us and the need to push this or to get this kind of a sale or this kind of an ROI. So anyway, I know we're coming up towards the top of the hour, but there's a lot of stuff here, and it is mystifying. I'm going to leave you with this one thought. So I was with Andy Hilliard, a good friend of mine. He's a client, and he and I were marketers together at Bank of America. He actually worked for me at Bank of America, and he's done a ton of, like, he's got a very tech savvy in his company's technology too. but he has tried every kind of funnel automation because he likes the easy button if possible. There is no such thing as the easy button. And if you talk to him, like he has a library that is like way bigger than mine. And I coached him out of it yesterday. I like coaxed it out. Like, have you read any of those books? And he's had a ghostwriter write 2 of his books, and he's never even read his own books. That's how ADHD he is. But he wants an easy button. So he has a Cliff's Notes for every book so that he can pull it out. That's how he likes to roll. But what he's found, what's that?
He's also an audiobook on the elliptical guy.
Yeah, there you go. But what he's found is with his salespeople, what they're doing is they're focusing on their own affinity groups, and they're developing relationships with their affinity groups and people that are in those affinity groups. And he's moved from like, let's just automate everything to kind of old-fashioned, let's get really serious about targeting people. And they're using LinkedIn outreaches and stuff like that, but they're doing it themselves versus having somebody automated and spamming you like you get, like what I get. So anyway, we're at kind of the top of the hour. Guys, thoughts on any closing thoughts besides SEO is dead? No, it's not, Joseph.
On the SEO thing, I think that some people still believe, and Joe, I'm not saying you do. That SEO is about what words you use and what's going on behind the scenes and the metadata kind of thing. And the way I view SEO is what is going to get someone who is searching for a franchise lawyer, M&A lawyer in Charlotte, gets me to them to look at. And so, it's a combination of what's on my website, what's on my LinkedIn. So all those things. So I think that for me, SEO goes beyond search engine optimization for a website. It goes into how do I effectively reach those people that are looking for my expertise. So I would say that old school SEO, that concept is dead. That is very limited. But I think that if you think about it on a larger scale, that it's an evolution, as you said a few minutes ago.
Yeah. The final thing I'm going to leave you with is think about how you like to buy. You are doing a ton of research before you ever pick up the phone or hit a contact us button. And that's what your customers are doing. That's what your prospects are doing. They are checking you out. They're Google searching you and your company. And there needs to be some consistency there. And it needs to be authentically you. So anyway, the more simplified and just targeted that we can be, the better, because it's so easy to overcomplicate this stuff. Especially now, so many options. So Adam, anything else from your standpoint?
No, I'm on this particular subject, I'm good. So we're good.
All right, cool. Well, we'll see. And if you guys have any thoughts about something that you really want to dive into, hit me up. You can hit me up at gfrey, F-R-E-Y, at trustbgw.com. Hit me up on LinkedIn, whatever. But we'll take that into consideration because we're here to serve you and have some fun while we're doing it. So selfishly. So anyway, thank you guys. We'll put this up on the BGW CPA YouTube channel later on today. And Santinello and the Shoemaker Law, they have their own YouTube channel as well. And yeah, you need to search Shoemaker Law, but Jack Santinello probably comes right up in the search, I would imagine, just because of how many times we've been doing this. So anyway, all right, guys, have a wonderful day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See you around.